I'm not really sure I have too much to say on this one. Yeah, I know that's a terrible way to start a review, but I actually thought I'd have a lot to say about this one, just because of how the game starts. So let's say you're a kid in the 80s. Every 80s kid wanted to be an astronaut, right? So Space Shuttle Project sounds kinda cool, brought to us by Imagineering and Absolute Entertainment. Yeah, it was the end of 1991 by the time this came out, but still, this game was gonna let you be an astronaut. Let's see here. Wait, what's going on? Did you see that? I screwed it up somehow and this number went down. Those are our lives. Yes, I just lost a life on the name entry screen. This is, in fact, your first challenge. Looking at the manual, you see that Class A security measures are now being enforced, and deviation from these procedures will be treated as sabotage. Yes, if you continue to screw this up, you will be rounded up under suspicion of being a spy. Because I bet that's what you had in mind when you decided to play a game about astronauts. I can't think of too many other games where you can fail before the game even starts. Off the top of my head, Takeshi's Challenge, but let's not dwell on that. So after resetting, because really why wouldn't you after losing a life on the name entry screen, I find myself on board the Discovery. Which is fitting as I discovered that the name entry screen doesn't wrap, forcing me to go from A all the way down to End. After not forgetting my security code, our first mission is releasing a surveillance satellite. Already I find this suspicious. Who are we spying on? The Russians? Each stage is laid out about the same way. Stage 1 of every level is to fuel and board the shuttle, which makes it look like NASA is doing these launches on a very short notice for some reason. You activate the oxygen and hydrogen pumps, dodge the oxygen pump, open the hatch, and then continually dodge the hydrogen pump while taking the crew up to the shuttle. At first, it's just the pilot, but later it gets totally ridiculous, the pumps moving at ludicrous speed, and the shuttle requiring a pilot, mission specialist, payload specialist, scientist, engineer, physician, etc, etc, etc. For some reason, the elevator is only big enough for 2 people and requires manual operation. I knew they were cutting funding in the 90s, but I didn't think it was by that much. The launch sequence is pretty cool by NES standards, and the NES quality voice synthesis actually kind of fits, making it sound like you're hearing this over radio.
14, 13, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. We've gone for main engine start.
Though you'll quickly notice something about this game. See the top of the screen? That's the only interaction you have with this game. It's all a bunch of QuickTime events. That's all the takeoff and landing are. The only difference is that the sequences get longer and more complicated as the levels go on. The big problem here is that there's almost no challenge here, especially if you have the manual. You'll be earning extra lives like crazy on these sequences, and if you're like me, reaching the maximum 9. And this makes up at least half of the game, stages 2 and 4 of every level. So stage 3 is the only spot where there's much of any variety at all. Releasing a satellite can't be all that hard, right? Well, damn, let's try that again. Damn. Shit! Why does it take so long to deploy? Okay, maybe this was harder than I thought. Consulting the manual, there's no way to make the satellite move once you reach the top of the screen. You must give it enough room to fold out the solar panels so it can establish orbit, because it totally needs the solar panels to use some maneuvering thrusters. Finding myself on the Endeavor this time, I endeavored to succeed in my mission, quickly making it back up and still failing. Wow, if the first mission is this hard, I shudder to think what all the others are like. Damn. I do like how the music gets faster as you run low on oxygen. It could have easily been lazy with that. Kinda reminds me of Sonic the Hedgehog when he's underwater, but not quite as panic-inducing. After finally getting the satellite in orbit, barely, I then managed to screw up the mission by forgetting that some QTEs use the D-pad rather than the A button. I am an idiot. At least the game over screens are unique depending on where and how you mess up. Our third attempt takes place on board the Enterprise. Oh, come on, I thought we were done with Star Trek Month already. Oh, see these orbs? They're Manned Maneuvering Unit power reserves. In essence, an extra life. I'm not sure why your security clearance, your shuttle, and your MMU all share lives, but whatever. Come on, that was so close I heard the victory music start playing. There we go. Alright, now that we know what we're doing, re-entry should be easy, right? Oh, come on. Okay, you have to hold the D-pad events then. Well, now that we know that... I don't think atmospheric re-entry looks like an 8-bit seizure attack. Yes, you'll be seeing that all 6 times. How hard could it be to make a re-entry sprite? The takeoff looked just fine, great even, but this... This isn't the Atari, guys. Well, after our heroic deeds are reported in the Nintendo Times, which is like the New York Times, only much less of a rag, I guess, we get new security codes. Oh yes, that name entry screen is also a password screen. It really is like Takeshi's challenge, losing on the password screen. Anyways, next mission, we start on construction of a space station, which seems to take place at night for some reason. Come to think of it, I think all the station missions do. What are we building under the cover of night? What is this station for? Maybe I'm thinking too hard about this. Also, this mission requires a payload specialist for some reason, and not the previous mission where we dropped off a giant satellite. Makes a whole lot of sense. The QTEs will now include Simon Says minigames. Building the station is probably the most tedious thing in the game, and it takes up half the missions. You basically just deliver blocks to certain places while dodging things and making sure not to run out of oxygen. Nothing all that interesting other than this giant tank of freedom on the side of the station. Is this freedom in its purest liquid form? Are we going to drop it from space? We may never know. Finish that up, re-enter, which introduces alignment, really just another instance of hitting A at the right time, multiple times, and see another front page entry of the Nintendo Times. Or not. Huh, now that really makes me wonder about this station. The next mission is... oh no, not more satellites. Ugh. Well, we'll have our payload specialist this time. It'll all be A-okay. I hope. Unless I fail to do this in time. Ugh. This is the poorest laid out launch platform in the history of everything. During takeoff, you now must press up and down for navigational tracking, keeping this indicator on the sine wave, and vernier adjustment, sliding this arrow up and down through the gap when it slows down. Nothing too difficult, really. Same could be said of the mission compared to the first one. It's not horrifying, you just nav a satellite, take it to the shuttle for repair, and put it back in orbit. I really have to question the scale of this one, though. It's all curving around this tiny Earth over here. I actually noticed that nothing is providing any sort of challenge anymore. After the first mission, it's mostly just tedious. It's kind of putting me to sleep, actually. Ugh. Maybe this ambiance and such would be kind of cool back then, but that's probably being generous. Assuming this game didn't give you a seizure anyways. Do another re-entry and prepare for more space station assembly. Satellite repaired in space. Wow, that's a boring headline if I've ever heard one. Anyways, not much new to say here, you just have to travel longer distances and through some weird flashy tunnel that exists on this station for no discernible reason. I assume if you touch it, that's bad, unlike the other metal bits of the station that you harmlessly bounce off of. I really do have to question why there's a million satellites passing through the station's orbit, though. That just makes no sense at all. Do another re-entry in which you are introduced to gimbal adjustments. Hit A on the right side and B on the left side. A little bit tricky when they get faster. Once again, no mention in the news about your crew in this mysterious space station under construction. Fifth mission, and final non-station mission, rescuing a Soviet cosmonaut. Not even kidding. What, did you think I brought up the Russians for no reason? Levels 5 and 6 just get ridiculous on the crew preparation, with the pumps requiring some pretty accurate movements to get past them, and you don't have a lot of room for error with that timer. Ugh. Anywho, this is really the only other challenging mission in the game, and my record for quickest life lost ever. Derp. Getting there and back without running out of oxygen does require some speed and remembering where the floating oxygen tanks will show up because we have random tanks of oxygen floating in space now. If you can do this, though, you've essentially beaten the game. After you're thanked by what looks like the Russian guy from the Hunt for Red October game on NES, all that's left is to undertake one more mission to finish up Project Freedom, once again during the dead of night. Okay, maybe that's not what the station's called, but you'd believe it, wouldn't you? These trips are insanely long, but mercifully there's now a tunnel at the end that'll pretty much teleport you back to the shuttle. Yeah, it's one way, but it's a heck of a lot better than nothing. Land the shuttle, get congratulated by then-President George H.W. Bush, and enjoy your brief career as an astronaut. So, Space Shuttle Project. If you want a Laserdisc game without the Laserdisc, there you go. I'm hardly kidding, this feels like an FMV game with the sheer amount of QuickTime events the game relies on. Thankfully, it's broken up by some other gameplay segments, and the music, while maybe a little cheesy, doesn't get grating, and thank goodness for that. This game could have been absolutely unbearable if they screwed up the music and the voices, but they at least got that much right. It's not terrible, not really even bad, and considering the deluge of bad games in the NES library, that's at least saying something. Though it is very short, and the repetition would have gotten annoying if it went on any longer. Heck, it kind of is already. I would have been happy if I paid full price for it, but let's say I wouldn't have been enraged either. Today it's like an inexpensive FMV game, but without all the grainy video, and you know what? I don't mind that. But that game didn't make us think much. We're gonna change that. Let's do a Macintosh game, finally back to what I know best. Till next time.